Hey guys, Justin here. I wanted to take a quick second and let you know about Growth Now Movement Live, coming to Reading, Pennsylvania, May 30th to June 1st. This event is going to feature some of my top guests like Fabio Viviani from America's Top Chef, best-selling author and future board expert Sarah Centrella, Albie Manzo from Real Housewives of New Jersey, and many, many more. This is going to be a game-changing event. It is truly going to be a day-long rock concert for entrepreneurs, forward thinkers, and people who are ready to take their life to the next level. So if that's you, head over to gnmlive.com and grab your tickets today because prices are going up soon. Again, go to gnmlive.com now to level up your life and truly create the life of your dreams. Can't wait to see you there. What is the secret to unlocking your full potential? What makes your idols any different than you? How do you become the person you've always wanted to be in life? This is where you get all of your questions answered. My name is Justin Shank, and I sit down with some of the most epic individuals who are changing the world with their actions in business and in life. We discuss how they did it, why they pushed themselves, and more importantly, how they were able to focus on continuous growth to achieve their dreams. Welcome to the Growth Now Movement. This week, I sit down with the one and only Steve Sims. Steve is the visionary founder of Bluefish, the world's first luxury concierge that delivers the highest level of personalized travel, transportation, and cutting-edge entertainment services to corporate executives, celebrities, professional athletes, and other discerning individuals interested in living life to its fullest. Just some examples of the experiences that Steve has been able to create. He closed a museum in Florence for a private dinner party for 6, took a submarine trip to the Titanic, becoming James Bond for a weekend, singing live on stage with legendary rock band Journey, and the list goes on, and he continues to do this for all of his clients. In this episode, Steve shares exactly how he does this, how he's able to get into doors a guy like him shouldn't be able to walk into, how he's able to become good friends with a guy named Sir Elton John, you may have heard of him, and how that has really become a great catalyst for him to build this great brand, write this best-selling book, how he got his deal with Simon & Schuster to write his book. This episode is packed full. I feel like I'm rambling because there's just so much content in this episode. Now, you'll notice this episode starts differently than others. Because what flows out of Steve's mouth is such gold, I had to hit record mid-sentence. So we were talking, pre-talk like I normally do for every one of my episodes, and it was just so good that I had to hit record. So I think you guys are going to love this, so come along for the journey and take a listen. Now, before we get there, I want to make sure you guys know about Growth Now Movement Live. If you haven't yet, go to gnmlive.com and check out the incredible speaker lineup like Fabio Viviani from America's Top Chef, Albie Manzo from Real Housewives of New Jersey, Justin Cavanaugh, who's a top 5 speed and performance coach in the country, plus many, many more like Sarah Centrella, and so on. You guys are going to love this event. If you are ready to level up your life, go to gnmlive.com and join us in Reading, Pennsylvania in May. Tickets are selling fast and they're selling out. Only have a handful of VVIP tickets left and a handful of VIP tickets left. So I'll see you guys there. Now, without further ado, I give to you Steve Sims.
Said on a lot of shows up until about 2 years ago. No, actually up until the 13th of October. We can even be specific. When my book came out, prior to that, I was the guy you avoided at an event, the guy you didn't know what he was up to, thought he was shady, and I was a really big deal to only about 300 of the wealthiest people in the world. And outside of that, no one else knew who the fuck I was. And I was absolutely fine with that. I've been in parties where people have given me their car keys, or people have asked me to hold their coat, or are you the security, and all this kind of stuff. Because I've been the guest of, the host or something, and they just didn't know who I was. Yeah. And then since then, people are like, oh, you did it. And it bewilders me what I've kind of got into. So I'm enjoying the ride at the moment, but I also find it a bit perplexing that some people have the amazement they have, because I don't think I'm worthy of it.
Yeah. And it's funny because I didn't hit record, and then halfway through what you were saying there, I hit record, because I think that's the perfect intro to everything that I want to talk about with you, right? It's about creating opportunity. It's about creating the life that you want, the connections you want. And what I what I say to people all the time with what I'm doing, when I started in 2016, I think I started the podcast. 2017, I set a goal and I said, by the end of this year, I want to feel like I belong. And people are like, what's that mean? I go, I want to feel like the conversations I'm having, I can give some sort of input, that people want to be a part of my show. And by the end of the year, Inc. magazine recognized me as a top 8 podcast to follow. Everything started to blow up. In 2018, I said, I want to be at the table. And people are like, what's that mean? I go, I want to be the guy people are talking about within those circles. Like you talk about the top 300 wealthiest people in the world. Like my clients are some of the biggest influencers, billionaires, celebrities in the podcast space, because I do podcast production and coaching. But, it's funny because I am that fuck up. I am that least likely to succeed. I am that guy who shouldn't be at the table, but here I am. And the podcast has kind of created that opportunity for me. But you've done that with what they call a concierge service. And you've been doing that for many, many years, and you've done some insane things. I want to get into some cool stories, but why don't you introduce yourself? Who is Steve Sims? What is Bluefish? What is this all about?
I'm probably the most attractive man on podcast. I'm as I said earlier, I'm a screw up from East London, a whiskey drinking biker that needed to know wealthy people because I noticed that my friends were all poor, just like me, and it stank. And so for me to not be poor anymore, I needed to know rich people. So for me to know rich people, I needed to be of value. And I wasn't going to get a job as a hairdresser or anything like that with them. So I became the guy that could. So whenever they needed something, whether it be a limited edition XYZ, whether it be a Ferrari, a watch, a bloody Hermes bag, I went and got it. When they needed to get into a party, when they needed to get Beyonce to sing them happy birthday, close down a museum, get a guitar lesson by ZZ Top, I was the guy that went, all right, I'll do that. And so the more I did, the more it grew. And as we said at the beginning of this, I became a really mammoth deal to less than 0.5% of the planet. But they all happen to, own things like countries or banks. One of my clients amazed me. I went over to St. Petersburg once, and we were in a shopping mall. And he said, I'm going to tell you what I own then. And I said, oh, fantastic. He said, you're in it. And I was looking at a shop, and I went, oh, you own that brand? He went, no, I own them all. He said, I'm the largest owner of shopping malls in St. Petersburg. He said, I'm the largest landlord. And so, it's kind of amazing the things I get up to, the people I kind of meet. And I released a book a year and a half ago called Bluefishing, The Art of Making Things Happen. I released it out of irritation because I was pissed off the way people were thinking, the people were interacting, the way people were communicating and building up relationships to the point that they fucking weren't. And so I've been offered a book by this little publishing company called Simon Schuster, who I had no idea at the time.
Really?
No,
that's crazy.
I'll tell you the story in a second about that. But we released the book, and to be honest with you, it dropped on like the 13th of October, and I was given a budget. And they said, right, you need to, down, because I live in Los Angeles. They said, there's a Barnes and Noble down at the Grove, so you'll get a table down there, and you'll get champagne, and you'll invite people in, and you'll do signed copies, and you'll do photographs. I thought, fuck, I'm not doing that. So I took the money that they gave me, and I put it behind the bar at a whiskey bar on Sunset Boulevard, and I invited like about 20 or 30 of my friends. And I had like Cole Hatter, Jesse Elder, Jim Quick, Lewis, all of these boys there, just really just like going nuts. And
was Ed Milet there?
No, Ed wasn't. No, he didn't. He wasn't.
I saw a photo recently of all those guys, and I was just curious if it was at your.
No, that was a different event. That was Dan Fleischman actually did an event, and he had all of us. It was a dick fest. It was every big, tight-fitting black T-shirt meathead you could think of. There was just everyone there. There was Sean Weiland there, Ed, Lewis was there. It was just a bunch of big boys. Bradley. But it was funny.
I'm talking about, because I was texting with Ed yesterday about something, and we were just talking about how it's so amazing when you reach a certain level, like how all of a sudden you're just in. And I'm not saying I'm at this level. I don't get invited to. I'm wearing a maroon shirt right now, not a black one, but I'm not at the table yet. But it's funny how they all just get connected and they're all boys. Anyway,
it is funny how you kind of, but it's the exact same thing about everything. What you've just there is summed up life. One thing I noticed was when you know 10 successful people, they know 10 successful people. And the trouble is, no matter where you are in the world, when you play at that level, someone is around your neighborhood that's at that table. And so I go, like this year I'm doing, this month I'm actually doing a speech in Mexico and Vegas. And then February I'm hosting Elton John's Oscar party with him. And then I fly to Thailand to speak in Thailand. Now, at every single one of those events, I know people in that area. So I'm doing either masterminds or I'm going out and doing other speaking gigs. I went to New York in November, again, for a gig I did with Elton John. And I just said, hey, I'm here. If anyone wants me to speak or if we want to do some mastermind crunching at a table or something like that. Ended up with like about 9 gigs. I went over there for like 2 days, came back about 10 days later. Wow. So it's amazing. You're right. The circle you get into can literally lap the world twice. And what you need to be aware of, here's the pinnacle nugget, the first nugget of this, all right? If you fuck up any of that, if you're not you, if you don't hold your own, if you don't bring value, it's literally like burning the blue touchlight. You will screw up every relationship along the way.
That is so true. And this is what I am teaching people in my mastermind groups, because people ask me all the time, like, how are you at the table? Like, how do these people, because look, like this is the first year I broke 6 figures. This is what, like, I'm definitely not the millionaire guy playing at the table, but it's because I bring value. And that was one of the nuggets you just gave in that is like, you have to make sure you continue to bring value and authentically. So let's talk about how you even got into this. Like you said, you're the poor guy from England. Like, how did you even get into this?
So, I was a cocky East London biker, and, I was the guy that, Friday nights were for rolling around on the floor and that kind of stuff. Not proud of my background, but that was the place I was living. And I didn't like it. I actually didn't like it. In fact, here's the daft thing. I didn't mind being in a fight when I was in East London, but I never freaking won the damn things. I was this big lump that always got his head kicked in. And so I took up kickboxing because I wanted to be able to walk into a bar, beat up the entire bar without a scratch. We'd all seen the Bruce Lee movies where you get one little mark down the side of your cheek and that's it. It looks good for the camera. Yeah. And it was weird. The more I learned how to fight, the less I actually fought. And then I started fighting for the British kickboxing team. And then I just thought to myself, well, I've conquered this. I've got to do something to get me out of this circle. So I literally applied for a job in Hong Kong. There was greater works of fiction in my resume than bloody Harry Potter, but I managed to get the job. And I arrived on a Saturday. I was fired on the Monday, and I think I was working on the door of a dodgy nightclub on the Wednesday. Wow. So I literally saw a lot of affluent people, and I still do this now. Again, same nugget number 2, if I get into any relationship, if I step up to anyone's table, using that metaphor for this podcast, you got to bring some game that everyone else on that table wants. Okay. So when I saw a bunch of rich people, I thought to myself, well, what do they want? They don't want suits because they got them. They don't want jewelry because they got that. They don't want fancy cars because they got that. They want to be in. They want to be seen. They want to experience. Well, who's doing that? No one. All right. Okay. So being on the door, I had people coming up to the door going, oh, there's a private party going on, Steve, but, I don't know how to get in, or, I haven't been invited. And I was like, there's my hook. So I started getting people into private parties, started getting them into like launches, like fashion launches, and when a car's released and when a movie comes out, a premiere. So I started getting into launch events. Then I started working with like Hollywood award shows, and it just grew and grew and grew. The point was I was never building a VIP concierge firm. My point was I was building up a Rolodex. I was building up a contact list of people that I could phone up and go, Justin, Bill, Pharrell, how are you? And they would go, Steve, how are you? If you wonder how strong your relationship is, if you phone someone up and go, hey, it's Steve, and they go, Steve who? You ain't got the relationship, okay? So it was that kind of thing. You wanted to be able to build up relationships, and I was focusing on the relationship industry. It just happened that the concierge world gave me that platform in order to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, everything that you're saying right now is beyond true, unless you have a name like Pharrell. And if somebody says Pharrell, the other person has the issue. Let's be real. But with common names like Justin and Steve, you have to be able to stand out from the crowd for sure, man. And so here you are, and like you said, you start to build this Rolodex. So many people, I think, maybe not so many people, but I know people who have the skills to be able to build the Rolodex, but not to be able to build the business. Right. So how were you able to kind of make that shift? And did it happen overnight or did it take a long time?
It happened immediately, but without the recognition it was happening. In fact, I screwed it up 7 years later. Like most entrepreneurs do, when things start going well, we consciously fuck it up. We go, well, that's working right. How can I make that better? And we screw it up. I realized that the age-old saying, and it's funny, when you do something and you don't know how to explain what you do, and then you meet someone who puts it into a beautiful little term. And I remember meeting Joe Polish, who turned around and said, if they don't pay, they don't pay attention. And I remembered from a young age that to get your attention, I had to do two things. I had to come up with the goods and I had to charge you. I got your attention if both of those were achieved. Okay. Either one of those failed, if you give it away for free, guess what its value is. Okay. Yeah. So bingo. So I would say to these people, I'll give you the exact story. I was on the door of a nightclub. 4 dudes came up and they said to me, Steve, are you going down to the yacht party? Now I was living in Hong Kong at the moment. I was working on the door of a club there, and Hong Kong is, it's an island, and it's actually a very small island, which a lot of people don't realize. And there's quite a few harbors around it. So I went, which one you want about? And they went, and they named this harbor that the party was on. I went, I may do, I don't know. I didn't even know about the bloody party. So these 4 guys went in. I took off. I asked my fellow meathead if he could cover for me for 40 minutes. So I run down to the harbor, and I saw this girl with a clipboard, the yacht getting ready. It was pretty early in the evening, like 7 o'clock. So I walked up to her, and I said to her, we got 4 people coming down here tonight. I know you start at around about 9 o'clock. I wondered, did you want them here at 8:30 or at 10 o'clock? What would be better for you? And just shut up. First thing she does is start flicking through the list. Now, here's the dumb thing. I hadn't given her the bloody names, but it was a knee-jerk reaction. And I said, look, you're really busy. I don't want to take up your time. So I was just trying to work out and coordinate with you what would be better for you. She was like, 10 o'clock. And I went, great. There's 4 of them. Chances are they ain't going to say thank you because, let's be honest, people want to get into the party. So I'd like to do that. Here's $400 as a thank you for each one that you're getting. She was like, thank you so much. Let me take the names down again. And she puts the names on the front of the freaking list. Okay. Of course, when they turn up, they're like, oh, friend of Steve, come on in, enjoy yourself. I went back to the club and I said to the boys, I just made a phone call. Of course, I hadn't. Just made a phone call and I got you into the party. And they were like, great. And I went, yeah, you're welcome. $500 each. And they paid me. So I made $1,600 just by walking down and asking. And it was then that I noticed one thing. The wealthier, the more powerful, the more connected, the more status you get, the less you want to appear to be turned down. And so I now have wealthy clients that quite simply not only could go to the award show, could buy the fucking thing, but they won't ask. They won't step out and go, hey, I'd like to get a ticket. Is that okay? Because then the other person on the phone is going to be, oh, this person's contacting me. That person now owes me one. With me, you pay, you play, you go away. It's very easy. So I noticed very early on that I was the way of solving you from being embarrassed. I was the one that saved you from getting a no, and you got to do what you did. And I got really good at getting the yes out of people by never asking them a question they could answer with a no. If you noticed, I didn't say, can they come? I said, what time do you want them here?
Yeah.
If she'd have turned around and gone, no, should have sounded like a retard, because it didn't make sense. So that's what started me off on it. And it grew and grew and grew. And as I say, the whole idea was I was vested and focused and pinpoint on building up that Rolodex. I wanted to be able to look at my phone and I wanted to be able to see, well, this was back in the 90s, so I didn't even have a bloody phone at the time, but I did have do you remember the Palm pilots?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Palm
Trio. Yeah, I remember having one of the first prehistoric black and white ones of those, that if it was slightly shiny, it's slightly light in the room, you couldn't read the screen. But I remember having one of these. Yeah, and thinking I was really trendy. And I wanted to be able to look on there and just see rich people, not just seeing kind of like Mike the meathead and Billy the biker. I wanted to be able to see captains of industry. And here was the thing, that eventually, and this is where I went wrong, eventually I could go and ask them for a job. 7 years later, my wife turned around to me and I was, kind of, I've got to be doing this. She said, what are you focused on? And I remember her asking me this. I've been with her, since I was 17, she was 16. She's gorgeous. I love her. And she said to me, what are you focused on? It was a very strange question to come from her. I said, well, I've now, my it's really getting good. And I was just on my way down to Monaco for about the fourth time for the Monaco Grand Prix. So I wasn't exactly like playing around in Dunkin' Donuts. I was in the right sandpit. And I said, I want to make sure I bump into him. I've got to speak to him about a job. And she said, you got a job. And I remember she printed off our bank balance. Now, bear in mind, I'm living in a beautiful apartment in Geneva, Switzerland, okay? Certainly not wanting for $1. And she printed off my bank account. She said, you've got a job. You just haven't realized it. As I say, shortly after that, you go, oh my God, well, now that I've got to get this CRM in place and I've got to get this, you fuck it up.
Yep.
You lose the secret sauce. So I was able to catch it and go back. But it took about 7 years before I realized I actually had a job. And it wasn't until 2000, this started in 93 when I was in Hong Kong, 93, 94. And it was about 2000 when I was in Palm Beach. And I got a call from a friend of mine who said, he said, no, I won't name names. You can research it. He said, so-and-so's bought a new company and he needs your help. And I said, well, what's he bought? And he said, IMG. And I went, the largest sporting agency in the world. And he went, yeah. And I went, fucking hell am I supposed to help with that? And they went, well, we didn't know, but the IMG actually owns 7th on 6th. And I'm like, oh, great. What does that own? And he went, New York Fashion Week. And I went, so again, what do you want from me? And they went, we'd like you to be the official concierge of the New York Fashion Week so you can look after all the VIPs and stuff like that. Okay. And then it was about a month later, there was a press release came out about Bluefish, which is the name of the company that we set up.
Yeah.
Because it meant nothing and it sounded cool and it was a password to get in one of our clubs.
It sounds really cool, actually. It's a great name.
Yeah. Well, it meant nothing, which is the good thing about it. But there was a news release that said that we were the official concierge of the New York Fashion Week. And that was the first time we'd ever been called a concierge. And after that, it was like, oh, that a concierge. Still today, on that website, there's no mention of concierge. We don't call ourselves Bluefish, Bluefish concierge or Bluefish the ultimate concierge. It's every article has always referred to us as a VIP concierge because they've tried to pigeonhole you. And hey, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's worked out for you. That's for sure.
It's worked out well for me, but the premise of it is still there. Is to create value for someone paying. Mm-hmm. And over the years prior to the book, I was actually transferring into a lot of luxury brands where I was helping them with, helping to promote and position their event. So I've helped market and brand some of the biggest events in the world, worldwide. And then I was consulting these luxury brands. When I first got approached to do a book, they actually asked me to do a book on exposing the rich and famous, what they got up to, what they spent their money on, what makes them different. Or, I want you to name names. And I said, I can't do that. If I do that, I'll be dead by cocktail hour. And then it turned around because I was doing a lot more entrepreneurial speeches. And a good friend of mine, Jason Gaynard. Do you know Jason Gaynard?
I don't.
Yeah, quality guy. He runs an event called Mastermind Talks.
Okay.
And a lot of the speeches I had given from Germany, Monaco, Japan had been on the state of the luxury market, how to communicate with the clients you need in the luxury market, how to build up relationships within the luxury market, how to draw in spenders, not peacocks. And that was my whole thing. I bring in buyers, not eyeballs. And he said to me, I want you to be on stage, but not talking about what you do. I want you to talk about how you do it. And as anyone that knows me will know that even though I worked for Ferrari and Porsche and Bentley, and I've had some very nice cars in my life, I don't even own a car, and I don't even lease one or rent one. I'm sitting here at the moment surrounded by 17 motorcycles. And so I just collect and ride motorcycles. So I have been turning up to, Well, I live in Los Angeles.
Oh
man.
yeah, you're in LA.
So, yeah. I'm wearing a hoodie.
I'm thinking England. Yeah,
I'm wearing a hoodie now because that's as cold as it bloody gets here. But no, I'm on a motorcycle all the time. And the reason I'm in Los Angeles is because of that reason. So I've turned up, and even if I travel, I went to India a little while ago, and luckily, because of my relationships with the motorcycle manufacturers, they had a bike waiting for me at the hotel, and I went to the palace on the motorcycle. So I've worked at Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump on a bike. I've always traveled on motorcycles. So I did this speech with Jason Gaynard, and then Simon Schuster said, well, look, let's tweak it and do the book on how you do it for entrepreneurs. So that's Bluefish in the Art of Making Things Happen, shallow plug, is how the book came together. But this is the story that I hinted towards earlier. A good friend of mine, and again, it goes back to these circles, that if you know 10 people, you'll end up knowing 20, and if you keep your word, you'll end up knowing 30, and they're all top shelf. A good friend of mine is a guy called Jay Abraham, and you probably know Jay is. Jay phoned me up on that Thursday night, and I was handling some travel for him and his buddy Tony Robbins in Europe. And we were just chatting over some different things, the different things they could get up to while they were traveling around and stuff. So this was more on the concierge side. Jay's a hero. He always answers every single phone call with, thank you very much. Now, how may I be of impact to your life? That's kind of his ending.
Yeah.
And I'd always said things like, buy the next round, or, I don't know, keep being you, or keep smart. I've never wanted anything from Jay because Jay's just been cool to have in my life.
Yeah.
That afternoon, I got the faxed offer from Simon Schuster on the book, an actual official offer. All I had to do was sign it, and the following day I would have had my first retainer paid into the account.
Wow.
So I said to him, do you know, it's funny you say that. I said, just been offered a book deal by this, and you're going to love this, by this company called Simon Schuster. And he said to me, he said, okay, he said, I'll call you back. And he hung up on me. And I thought, all right, so Jay's full of shit. That was just a lovely little sign-off, and there's nothing behind it. But okay, now I know. Fair enough. About a half hour later, he phones me up, and he says, fish or steak? I'm like, well, he's a fish or steak? What do you like? I went, steak. He's like, all right, come down here Friday night. We're going to write a book. So I went down to his house. Guy had forgotten what I wanted, and there was a pile of bloody salmon and a pile of steak. So he'd done both. And we went through it, and I gave him my retainer agreement and everything. And he said, okay, that's wrong. He said, you got to ask for 5 times that amount already. I'm like, I've never written a book before, man. He's like, you got value, 5 times.
Wow.
Okay. So, I go back home after too much food and way too much whiskey consumption. And over the weekend, I rewrite this email. I send it in. Thank you very much. In due consideration and reflection of the value I can actually bring to writing a book and my distributor, I'd like to request this number is actually multiplied by 5. I'm eager to hear you respond. All the better. So sent it off. And I'm thinking, this is great. So about 2 days later, I get an email and a fax, and the retainer agreement had been altered through my agent, and they had offered me 4 times what they had first offered.
Wow.
And I was like, this is amazing. And it was a nice retainer. I'm going to just say that. I bought a motorbike. I went to Japan, and, I still had a nice chunk afterwards. And so I phoned up Jay, and I said, they didn't give me 5 times. They gave me 4 times. And he started laughing. He said, I thought they would have told you to piss off. So I realized now I could have got screwed, but I ended up getting a very good retainer. Then finding out the level and size of Simon Schuster, and going, damn. And again, it's that table thing. When you're sitting at that table, even the person on the chair that you don't know is someone that deserves to be at that table. Mm-hmm. And with you becoming a magnet for that level, you end up attracting only that level. And that's why I believe I got Simon Schuster, was because I was playing at that table.
Yeah, that's such a great story. The fact that you didn't know who Simon and Schuster was is the best part of the whole thing. But
well, the other good thing was because I had like Brendan Bouchard, JJ Virgin, and JJ. Love JJ. JJ's editor or publisher was the same publisher as mine. And I had no idea about this.
Yeah.
So apparently, JJ. The story goes that JJ was going to the Grammys, because of me, and JJ was speaking to her publisher, and the publisher said something along the lines of, I had this guy come in that, does this, and works for them. And JJ went, is the guy's name Steve Sims? And she's like, yep, he looks after me and all my boys. And they were like, whoa. So big thumbs up to JJ. I'm not sure if that phone call, if they hadn't got that phone call from JJ, I'm not quite sure if they would have found me credible.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Like, I think when you start to play on a certain level, everything starts to happen. Do you ever question yourself whether you should be on that level?
I do. And the answer is I shouldn't. I went through a very dark period of my life. This was just after I kind of like screwed up the company, because I suddenly started going, well, hang on a minute. I'm bald. I've got earrings, piercings, tattoos, probably overweight, can't spell for shit, uneducated, very low tolerance for people, zero filter. I shouldn't be working at this level.
Yeah.
Okay. And I did the dumbest thing I've ever done in my life. And I've done shitloads of dumb things, was I changed me. I actually took out my earrings, didn't grow my hair, thank God. But I took out my earrings and I started wearing sharp suits, and I bought a Ferrari. Okay. And I started turning up to be the person that I thought you wanted me to be. And you can never win that calculation. Okay. And what I did was I sold me. I was putting so much effort into trying to speak correctly, trying to overpronounce. I looked like some idiot off of Downton Abbey. I just couldn't come across as me. And do you know the funny thing is, when someone's not quite being who they are, it rubs you the wrong way. And then there's this distrust, confusion, lack of confidence. You never do business with people that have that. So I was far more confident as a fuck up from London than this precocious twat in a Ferrari in a sharp suit with a 50 grand watch. So luckily I went back to being me, and I'm now very comfortable in the fact that, hey, if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, we can part, no harm, no foul. But I am going to make sure that there is zero effort in showing you who I am.
God, there's so much value in that, because I think, like you said, you try and show up and be who somebody else wants you to be instead of just being yourself. And people see right through that immediately. Like, that was the story of my young life. I tried to be somebody else. And then once I finally just embraced the idea that I was the worst student of all time, that my family was fucked up. Once I embraced that, everything started to fall into place. Right. So like, it starts to become your character, who you are, and you step up and like you said, if you like it, great. If not, see you later. Like there's no time.
It's much better. Yeah, you can relate the whole point, and especially today. See, I did a speech a little while ago, and I said to everyone, I said, look, you want to see the slowest evolving technology in the world? I'm going to show you. Get your phone out. So everyone gets their phone out. Hold it up to your face. Do not turn it on. They hold it up to the face, and I said, you see that reflection? That's the slowest evolving technology in the world today. We're primitive. We walk past a bush, it rattles, we shit ourselves, we run away, or we attack, okay? We see a hot girl walking down the road, and we look, I don't care what you're saying. I don't care if you want to stick a banner or a chant or hate Sims on this, but the fact is we're still primitive animals, and one of the primitive reactions we require is to connect with people. And we're losing the ability to do that. Now, I can't connect with you if you're trying to be someone that you're not, because I'm going to be trying to go, well, is he telling me who he is? Or is he telling me who I want to think he is? Or is he pretending to be smarter than what? I'm not up in those calculations, okay? I want to be able to meet you and know you and feel you and relate to you. And I think the key there is not feeling you, it's relating you. Okay, so that's what we need to be focused on today. And that's all about relationships. And we can download, sorry to rant on.
No, this is great.
You can go on the App Store today and you can download an app to build a bridge, brain surgery, speak in Swahili, but you can't download an app that's going to teach you how to communicate with other people. You can't download an app that's going to do it for you. You've got to go back to a period where you talk to someone and you do this stupid thing that I haven't been doing much of in this. Listen.
Yeah. That's so key, right? Like I believe that I became the most interesting man in the room when I became the most interested man in the room.
Oh, that's good.
When I started to ask the right questions, when I started to truly care about the story, when I truly started to care about what it is people wanted and how can I help them get that. Like that's when I was saying, I think I said this before I hit record, like what you do and what I'm doing is very similar. Like I always go, how can I help first? And then the relationship organically happens from there. And now I do it differently. Like I don't ask for money. But obviously there's always a return in some way, shape or form. It happens organically, right?
Yeah, that's one of the key things that I've been doing as I've been going around and pushing the course and all the stuff that I'm up to now on the outside, because I've made a shift from spending rich people's money to give them really interesting cocktail stories to training and coaching entrepreneurs on how they can do it themselves. So it's still the same kind of thing, but just in a different sandpit. But the one thing I always start with is if a bricklayer from London can be closing down a museum in Florence and having Andrea Bocelli come in and serenade you while you eat pasta at the feet of Michelangelo's David, you're already out of excuses. Because it's not because of my Harvard degree. It's not because of my stunning good looks. It's because I do. And that's the key. I do. And again, Ari Meisel put together well in a verb what I'd already been doing. He said, get going, then get good. And that's where I've always been going. But the key is to get going. And most people stop there.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I preach all the time. Like I started this podcast 2.5 years ago and I sucked. Like go back and listen. I recommend episode 5. It's the worst one out of all of them. Like you get good as you go. And even my business that I started, my pricing was wrong. I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't actually even know how I was serving. I just started. And that's so key. By the way, that little verbiage about the Vatican and all these, Andre, that's real shit. Like he's done these things for people. It's not made up, I mean, what do you think is the craziest thing that you've ever accomplished for a client?
Well, that was pretty cool because the request I got there was quite simply, I want to go for an exclusive restaurant in Florence with me, my fiance, her mum and dad, and her friend. So it was going to be 5 people. They wanted to go to an exclusive restaurant. I actually shut down the Accademia Museum that houses Michelangelo's David, set up a table of 6 at the feet of David. And then I thought, well, you got to have some music playing. So I got Andrea Bocelli to come in and serenade 6 people while they ate pasta. That was pretty good. I've walked the white carpet with Elton John at his Oscar party. The freaking list is endless. And the funny thing is, every time you grab a few stars, you're able to kind of grab a few more and a few more and a few more. And so it just accumulates. It's gone from getting people into a yacht party to walking into Elton John's party, or getting a drum lesson by Guns N' Roses, or getting a guitar lesson by ZZ Top, or going on stage with your favorite rock bands. All of these things I've achieved and I've done, and I've been thrilled and proud to do.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask one more question, and then I want to get into this course that you've created. So my question for you is, how important has the art of storytelling been for you to grow that network, or has it happened organically?
I'm an Irish boy from London. So I think all of us, the innate Barrow boy in us, to sell our veg on a Sunday afternoon, I think is still probably in my ancestry there. I think getting the story over is important. Actually, no, let me change that answer. I think it's vital, especially in what I do, because if you want to really get someone to turn off quickly, you phone them up and you go, hey, how much will it cost? And then they go click, especially if they have more money than a little planet like England, So what you have to do is you have to get them involved in the story. You have to get them involved in the passion. So you communicate with people and you go, hey, thank you very much for taking the time. This has actually come to my attention and I want to do this and I want to see how I can get you involved in this to achieve this, and you start bringing them into the story. You start making them an integral prop, an integral character within that story. And that's what gets them on board. Everything I've done The payment's always been the third question, the third point, the third fact. You know you're going to have to pay for the museum to shut down. You know you're going to have to pay Andrea Bocelli. You know you're going to have to pay Elton John, but it should never be the leading question.
Yeah.
Okay? And so, yes, getting the story in there. Then when you're talking to other people, it's the story and the involvement and the attention to detail that gets them. And you can be in a bar, and I love doing this. I go to events, and my clients will be telling the story of what they did, and there'll be 10 people around them. Okay, now to some of those people, that doesn't resonate. Okay, and they'll be like, "Oh, this was a nice story," and then there'll be a couple of them there, and then there'll be like a husband and wife, and you can just see their pupils dilate. You can see they're leaning in, and you can just sit in the back going, all right, I'm going to talk to them in a minute, and you just swoop in. So I think storytelling, the art of storytelling, is a losing art form, and I think it's one of the best techniques to be able to establish what you do, how you did it, and what was the reason behind doing it. So I think people should learn how to storytell.
Yeah. It's huge. It's been kind of everything that I've done as well. And so, everybody listening, like, that's super key, but here you are now transitioning, like you said, from serving the ultimate wealthy to now serving entrepreneurs, startups, helping them go to the next level. First, I want to ask why is that the next kind of thing in what you're doing, and how are you doing it? How are you serving these people?
All right. So two things, and they both sound really obnoxious. One of them is I have enough money. Now, a lot of people turn around and go, oh, you never have enough money. As long as I've got gas in all of these bikes tanks and I've got enough whiskey in there, my kids are at private school, my mortgage is in no concern, I'm fine. Okay. You need to be focusing on your life. But what I did focus on from a very early stage was arousal. If it didn't arouse and excite me, then I wasn't going to do it. So if someone came to me, and this was always in the concierge business, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I want to be seen with this person, or I want to shake the hand. Well, that doesn't fucking excite me. If you want to perform with them, if you want to go on stage with them, that'd excite me. But if you're not going to go to that level, I don't want to play. So I always wanted to do stuff that excited me. That's why I never ever gave a client what they asked for. I gave them what they could afford and what they deserved and what they truly would get all excited about. But more importantly, what excited the shit out of me. The idea of me not only closing down a museum, but getting the most famous Italian speaker, not the second, not the third famous, the most famous singer to come in and sing, that excited me. Okay. Yeah. So now when I've started going to entrepreneurs and going, look, you're fucking up, you're in an insta-perfect world and you're clouding yourself with all of these. Well, I need a funnel. I need an automation. I need a CRM. No, you need a relationship. And if you can't do that, none of those things are any good. It's like having 4 race tires and no car. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
So this was now arousing. And again, back to the book. I don't like the way people are communicating. I don't like the way people are failing to communicate. I don't like the fact that most of us are looking at the top of people's heads 90% of the day because they have faces in a phone. So I wrote the book because it aggravated me. Now what I'm doing is I have a course called The Distillery, and that's on bluefishsteve.com. And that is, it breaks down the elements of the books and every month we add more content to it. So it's a growing, evolving content and library that just says, look, stop overthinking things and start doing it. So we got the Distillery over there. And then I have what I'm really proud of, something called the Speakeasy. And these are a monthly consulting program. But also the real fun ones that I like is the events that I do. I have the Speakeasy. I did Speakeasy San Diego, New York, and I've got Speakeasy LA in February where, and this is the funny bit, you don't know who's coming. You don't even know where it's going to be. I give you literally a map. I found this a bit funny. I give you a map with a little circle and say, I'm going to be in this area. Okay. 2 weeks prior to the event, you're going to know the address of the first venue. So usually it's in 2 different venues over the 2 days. I ask you, what's the problem you need solved? And then I go into my Rolodex and I get people to come in that can actually solve your problem. So I'm not there going, and I love Lewis House, but I'm not there going, hey, come to my event because Lewis House is there. I'm not trying to get you to come because of Lewis. I'm trying to get you to come because of your problem, and I'll solve your problem. So I'm getting the people in the room that can really answer it. And when we did it recently in November in New York. And we had the head of Victoria's Secret's branded in there that does all the video production and everything, because people wanted to know about how to tell a story in video. You know, I got the guy that does all of them for Victoria's Secrets and Ralph Lauren. And someone said they forget shit. So I had Jim Quick come in to teach you how to stop forgetting shit. And then there was a lot of people moaning about automation. So I got the head of automation himself, Ari Meisel, come in. And I also got one of the top agents in New York for writing a book, who came in and spoke about it. Just so I bring in the experts that can really solve your problems. And that's fun to be able to see people come along, not see a bunch of speakers stand up on stage and go, hey, I'm brilliant because this, and I did a 10-figure deal on this, and I'm wonderful, and you should clap now as I leave. I'm there to go, all right, what's your problem? There's an expert in front of you now that's going to answer how you get out of it. And I want people to actually grow from it.
I love all of that. So how do people get a hold of this? How do they find out more information? How do they start working with you?
Well, the easiest way is probably to go to, if they got a cell phone and they're in the US, text SIMS, SIMS, to 345345, or visit the website Steve, D for dog, Sims, SIMS.com. If they go through the text route, then they will get text alerts. If they go through the website, they'll still get the newsletters. Texting gets you to know about some of the certain events faster. But there you can find out under my speakeasy and under the course, the distillery, bluefishsteve.com. So that'll give you all the details there.
Yeah, I got to tell you, man, I could talk to you probably for 4 hours and enjoy the whole conversation and learn. And this has been amazing. But obviously to be, cognizant of your time, I wrap up all these episodes with 5 rapid fire questions. Some are serious, but I ask you this: answer within one word or at the most one sentence. Are you ready?
Okay.
First one is, what is your guilty pleasure?
Motorcycles.
Nice. I didn't know if you're going to say that or whiskey. I knew it was going to be one of the two. The other one is, what's the one trait in a friend that's non-negotiable?
Trust.
Love it. If you could have dinner with one person, living or dead, who would it be? Which is an interesting question for you, because if they're alive, you could probably make it happen. But
yeah, so now what you do is I now start thinking about people that are dead. So yeah. I would probably go for Pope John Paul or Margaret Thatcher.
Awesome. At the end of your life, if you could only be remembered for one sentence, what would it be?
He lived his life without apologies.
Love it. And obviously this podcast is called The Growth Now Movement. So I wrap up every single episode with this one question. And that is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
It was a saying that my dad actually said to me once when I was really young that made no sense, that's haunted me every day since then. He said, no one ever drowned by falling in the water. They drowned by staying there.
That is so powerful. That's amazing. Steve, thank you so much, man, for coming on the show, sharing your wisdom with my audience. This has been a lot of fun, and hopefully we stay connected.
Yeah, make sure we do, pal.
Thanks, brother. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.